What can the eclipses mean for you? What's coming up with eclipse? We have eclipses now. We have these times of year where it's the eclipse season. And well, that's where we are. So we're going to be talking today about the eclipses. And it's going to be a really great episode because I have my guest for the second time. Pardon me for looking over the side as I live produce this. For the second time, my guest, Jennifer Wilson, astrologer and clinical hypnotherapist. So if you want to find out how to make use of these eclipse energies that are coming up in the autumn of 2024, or if you just want to learn a little bit more about eclipses and astrology, then stay tuned for this episode. Hello and welcome to the Charmed Life podcast. This podcast is all about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe. And I am your host. My name is Tricia Carr. Welcome to our episode. My name is Tricia Carr, as I said in my intro, and we're here to talk about astrology and your beliefs and how to manifest. Because this podcast and this YouTube channel is all about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe. And if you're listening to the podcast version, just know that this is also delivered live on YouTube. And so you might hear me chatting with some of the people who came to the broadcast. And that's what we have. And so you can join my mailing list, which you can find a free gift below in the description. That is a really fantastic meditation. And it's also a way for you to be able to sign up for my newsletter because that's the best way to stay in touch with amazing episodes that I have coming up. Of course, other things like courses I'm offering and, when there are specials on things and, other kinds of content like articles. So I'm about to I think I'm going to release tomorrow an article on self-love. Self-love versus arrogance. That's something that's coming up. Before I welcome on my amazing guest, Jennifer Wilson, I wanted to do a quick follow-up PSA to an episode that I mentioned. In an episode that I mentioned, actually it was the one just previous to this, my friend from the Balam Foundation, balam.org. I'm going to put the web address here in the live chat, but it's really simple if you're just listening, balam.org. Now, this is a cat rescue organization. It is run by my friend Phaedra Barrett, and Balam, B-A-L-A-M, is the namesake of it, who is her beloved angel in a fur cat costume. And I mentioned last week about, just to donate and I'm getting verklempt. I'm getting weepy. Support to donate and also to adopt kittens from the Balam Foundation. That is the thing that Phaedra really needs help with because she's overrun and they do amazing work. If you're in the United States and you're thinking about adopting a kitty, please do consider going to balamfoundation.org. And because these cats while they are in Mexico, they bring them to the United States. That's where they're mostly homed. Because the Balam Foundation is a cat rescue, and they also provide medical services and TNR for cats and dogs in the most impoverished places in areas in Mexico. And so it's a beautiful work, and Balam is the namesake. Phaedra and Balam, they got this viral video sensation stuff going on with Instagram, I think about 3 years ago. And they channeled all of that notoriety, all of that attention into this beautiful foundation helping so many animals. And Balam passed away last week. He was just shy of 9. He had, it's a very sad story. He had a very beautiful life. So I guess I should have rehearsed this. I didn't expect to get this emotional. I thought I had done a lot of purging about it. But it kicks up a lot of, emotions around grieving and, our love for animals. I'm an animal communicator, and I'm often supporting people with their animals in transition. There's another animal that I'm supporting who's in a probably the final stages. So there's a lot of energy here that I'm holding back. Trying to clean myself up before I welcome on my guest, so we can start to talk about the eclipses. But if you would like to consider, first of all, you can follow Balam Says, BALAM _ says, SAYS, on Instagram. You can keep up on their stories. She has, in Phaedra's and Balam's family, they have, like, I think 5 more cats who are fantastic and beautiful. And then, of course, they have 100 or more in their actual rescue. So consider donating anything if you have a heart for this kind of work, or adopting cats from the Balam Foundation. Okay. Phew. So, Jennifer, sorry for the rocky introduction.
I was like bawling with you over here, so that was beautiful. And
yeah,
I'm gonna do a post on my story
about
this too, and just see like if we can create some awareness, because
Yeah, good. Thank you so much. So yeah, later today on my stories and maybe on my profile, I'll post again about Balam. So I'll make things that are linkable. But it's a beautiful profile to follow anyway, because they're hilarious, they're amazing, and they're beautiful stories about cats. So maybe this is all a part of the eclipse season, right? Like bringing things to the surface. So let's go ahead and shift gears. Everyone, this is Jennifer Wilson. You were on about a month ago, I think, the last time. And you are an astrologer and hypnotherapist. And your perspective on how we can use the cosmological and astrological energies to support ourselves in our subconscious work, it's just brilliant. And I love how empowering your message is. So, actually, before we head into the eclipses, do you have anything fresh and new going on that I want to make sure that we highlight? Any invitations we should make sure people have for you, as we have all of your links in the description? But yes, please, anything that's going on.
Of course. And thank you so much for having me back. I absolutely love being here. I think the only thing that I want to highlight is for anyone who is looking for more insight into themselves by tapping into their astrological blueprint, I am gearing up to launch Applied Astrology again, which is a 10-week digital course that helps you tap into who you are at a soul level. It is a wealth of knowledge, and we'll just pop some info for that in the show notes.
Great. Yeah. And they can find it through your website.
Instagram and website. Yep.
And Instagram. Okay, great. Yeah. And so those are all in the description, and just adding it now to, and of course you can see it on the screen, and that is right there now on the chat for those of you who are live with us. So we have eclipse season. Sometimes we call it eclipse season. I mean, we only have 2 eclipses. Do we officially call this one a season? Because sometimes there's 3 or 4 that are coming up.
We do. It is called eclipse season, even though it is roughly twice a year. But I don't know why, because seasons are usually
like 4 months, but
4.
Yeah.
But the thing that's actually interesting is, so with the eclipses, and I just want to highlight, a lot of you may already be feeling these energies. The energies are most intense during the eclipse vortex, which is for North Americans September 17th to October 2nd. But the other thing to pay attention to is that these eclipse energies actually play out for you over the next 6 months. So again, I mean, seasons are, there's 4. This is also only 2. But yeah, so it's not just, it's very, very significant energies for us.
So the 2 hubs of these eclipse seasons, they kind of cover the whole year. Because when does the other one usually occur? It's like in the spring-ish or something?
It depends.
Or the summer. Yeah,
they're not
in the summer.
They're not in like specific times of year. It just depends on how the rotation. So and they shift on the axes of the zodiacs as well. So as they're shifting, then they're going to shift what time of year they're in too. Right now, because we're coming out of the Aries Libra, which is why we have kind of like a half. We have the Libra influence, but Pisces, and we're fully moving into that Piscean Virgo axis.
And so next week, it's the 17th or 18th. I haven't looked at the specific time, but it's probably
it goes
mostly
over. it like starts on the 17th and goes into the 18th.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So of next week, so this is August of 24. And so again, if you're listening at another time, I think there's still some really juicy stuff to pull through here. And we have, so next week is the first one, and that is a partial lunar eclipse. And it is in Pisces. Is that
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
But we've got a Pisces, but we're still in Virgo as the solar season. So yeah, tell us what to expect. Tell us how we can use these energies, or maybe how you're already experiencing it. Tell us all about it.
I I also just want to apologize. I'm still getting over a little bit of a cold, which is why I kind of sound a bit nasally, but I feel like it's for me personally, I feel like this cold came on out of nowhere, almost like a type of purging,
Hmm.
which will happen um, if there's something to purge for you with these eclipses. I'm not saying that you're going to get sick or everyone's going to get sick. For me personally, and I think where it was hitting my chart, I want to just kind of peel it back and start right at the beginning with what an eclipse is,
Hmm.
because I think knowledge is power.
Right.
And so a lunar and a solar eclipse, how it happens is based on the sun, the moon, and the earth all in alignment. And that's what's creating the shadow that makes it look like it's being blacked out. It's actually not, it's not being blacked out, it's the shadow.
Hmm.
I am feeling some stuck energy in my sacral here that needs to be released. South node in Scorpio, fifth house, north node.
So we're
Yeah.
talking to Angela here on the feed, who's here. Angela says she's feeling some stuck energy in her sacral, fear that needs to be released, and South Node in Scorpio, fifth house, North Node in the Taurus in the 11th house. So she's feeling it, is what she's saying, basically. Yeah,
Sorry, I just got distracted by the
that's
comments there
okay.
real quick.
Yeah, no, they're fun comments. So yeah,
Yes, thank you for commenting.
yeah.
And I just lost my train of thought because I was
Well,
doing that.
you were talking about what eclipses are, and
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
go
yes,
ahead.
yes,
Hmm.
yes. So, and these happen roughly twice a year. And what
Hmm.
they bring is significant opportunity
Hmm.
for change.
Hmm.
And I don't use that word a lot because I think it scares a lot of people, but change doesn't need to be scary. We are not here to stay the same. We can try to stay the same, but if we do that long enough, and I can say this from experience, you're going to get catapulted forward and the universe is going to help you do that. And usually, if it's you getting a push because you're not wanting to do it yourself, it's way less comfortable than if you were to take steps yourself. And these eclipses really bring in opportunity to change the trajectory of your life. And when I look back at a lot of major things that have happened to me, and I'm not talking like they're not minor things.
Yeah.
I moved across the world from Canada to New Zealand on an eclipse. I left my 8-year corporate career on an eclipse. I started my business on an eclipse. And none of this was planned around eclipse time
Yeah,
at
you didn't
all.
go like, I'm going to do this. You just noticed it. The plans are always like bigger than trying to put it at the eclipse. It happens, we're subconsciously drawn to it, right?
I never plan. The only thing that I am careful with, and I'm a very firm believer of like, don't let astrology dictate your
No,
life.
of
It is
course not.
here, you right? It
Hmm.
is here as a tool. I will try at all possible to not fly during eclipses or Mercury retrograde. And if I have to, then I just make sure I'm giving myself extra time and I'm
Yeah.
checking.
Yeah, you have to
Um,
slow down, get more intentional. I
yes.
I have and this is again by trial and error. I do the same thing with Mercury retrograde. If I'm going to launch something like
Mm,
launch a new course or something, I look at when I've learned it. Now I've finally learned it. I will look and see when Mercury retrograde is going. But the cool thing about that is that it can help to grab some momentum for me or to slow me
yep.
down. So it's
Yep.
like, okay, well, I want to actually launch it in all of the technical ways before Mercury retrograde, even if it's a
Yes.
day or two before. Or if it's like, well, it's actually Mercury retrograde right now. I thought I wanted to launch it next week. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to take another couple, 2, 3 weeks, whatever it is. And
Yep.
it's been very beneficial in that way too, to either
Yep.
speed me up or slow me down. So,
Yep.
but yeah, I learned too many times that I'll find the holes in the boat if I
As
launch
you do.
during Mercury retrograde. So let me find them now before I involve a lot of people.
And I love that you said that because that is I feel like there's always two different lenses that you can look through things through, right? And you could have chosen the negative lens of like Mercury causes problems, but you chose the lens of I either get sped up or slowed down and gives me an opportunity to find the holes before, you know, everyone else is finding them with me. And these are the positives with Mercury retrograde. They do those reassess, those R words, the reassess, reevaluate, review, and this is the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
that you are getting with Mercury retrograde. And the eclipses, you know, they bring in exciting opportunities to review things too.
Mm-hmm.
Other things that have happened for me on eclipses was the end of a relationship, which I will tell you I already knew was going to happen and I was ignoring.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably was a lot more painful for me than it had to be, because the eclipses were like, well, you know, tried to tell your girlfriend, but you're not listening. So boom, here you go. And, but I've also started a relationship on an eclipse. So they're just these really, really, really pivotal opportunities. And the lunar eclipse is in Pisces. The solar eclipse is in Libra. So these are going to be the Piscean energy of the lunar eclipse and the Librian energy of the solar eclipse. This is going to be the collective energy, but where it is unique to you, and this is why it's important to have this information, is where in your chart this Piscean energy is. Because I just made some notes here, so pardon me if I'm looking down because I
That's
still have
right.
a little bit of a sick brain. But um, with the Piscean energy, it is creative energy, it is allowing energy, it is accepting, it is flowing, it is sensitive. But that's just not coming into your world in any way or a random area. What house it's in, what other planets it is in, excuse me, are going to make all of the difference and give you some really, really accurate insight, as well as if it is making contact. And what that means is if it's close to
Mm-hmm.
any other planet or point natally in your chart, it is, you're going to feel it more significantly than if it was just transiting an area of your chart that doesn't have anything necessarily there.
So you take the qualities that you just enumerated for us about Pisces. You
Yep.
take those qualities, then and you hold you know those are the qualities of Pisces. Then you go look at your chart and see where Pisces is and next to basically. And that's going to help us to understand what, putting those pieces together, comparing those are going to help us to understand what the
Yes.
eclipse is supporting us in, probably changing or new
Yes.
opportunities, things that are kind
Yes.
of, well, because the eclipse basically takes us inside and then bursts us outside real quick. That's the way that it feels to me,
Yes.
right? Because the emotions or the light, whichever way you want to look at it, are hidden just for a moment, but it's really hidden. And so you go really deep inside, and then there's a bursting forward. That's what it feels
Yes.
like to me. And then it lasts, like you said. The
Yes.
cat, it's a catalytic energy, right? It's a
Yes.
catalyst.
The most intense, actually, before I say that, I just want to highlight the important thing to for you to get accurate insight is understanding the degree points,
Mm.
because you are only going to look at if it's within 5 degrees of that
Oh.
point, which I know is going to be advanced for a lot of people. So please don't feel overwhelmed. But just so you have all the information. So for the lunar eclipse, it is 25 degrees Pisces. For the solar eclipse, it is 10 degrees Libra.
And so, wait, you said within 5 degrees, then it's more intense? Is that what it is? So then if it's 25 degrees Pisces, what does that calculation mean exactly?
So that is, so where the lunar eclipse is at
Mm-hmm.
its peak is 25 degrees of Pisces. And you have degrees that are, when you look at your birth chart, you're going to see little numbers beside your
Mm-hmm.
planets and your points.
Mm-hmm.
So so for example, if you have something that is in your chart, this is just random, but say your Saturn is 2 degrees Pisces. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's way too far away from that 25 degrees. But if,
Oh, that's what you mean. I got you.
yes,
Okay. Oh, perfect. That's really
yeah,
good. So you have my chart there.
yeah.
Can you look at my chart and give an example? Not because I'm like, make it about me as much as
No,
like,
no.
there's a, that would be
Um,
helpful.
yes. So for you, we will look at the lunar eclipse first because it's happening first.
So Angela says, my Pisces midheaven is 23 degrees. So that's like right in that pocket then. Is that right?
Yes, and that's work related.
Or the midheaven is work related. Yeah.
Mhm.
And Charlie is seventh house with my sun, Venus and Lilith, and my moon and rising Virgo. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
So look at the degrees on that too and see how that is. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just looking
No, I love it. That's
at.
fine. Um, so the lunar eclipse is 25 degrees Pisces. So for you, your sun is 27 degrees Pisces in your
Oh.
seventh house.
So big stuff. I'm right
So
there. Again, right in the pocket.
right in the pocket with your sun sign and also your Neptune.
Oh,
And
Jesus.
so your sun sign has to do with who you are at your core, your vitality, your essence. And it's in the seventh house, which has to do, it's Libra. So it's relationships, it is balance, it is harmony. So significant energies for you around relationships. And this doesn't mean bad. I feel like a lot of times when it's anything with like an eclipse or a transit, people are like, oh no, it doesn't mean bad at all. It
Yeah.
doesn't. This is just the focus.
Yeah. That's so, and it's any kind of relationship, right? Any relating to individuals,
One on one.
one-on-one relationships, but friendships, family, obviously my partner, my marriage, but it could be, I mean, it could be new friendships, or it could be a friendship that moves into a different stage. It could be new work relationships, right?
Um,
Possibly.
if it was work, I'd say it'd probably be more in the sixth house, probably pulling that in a little bit,
Okay.
but it could
Personal.
be. It could be. It's just more, I think if there's anything that needs, because that Libra is all about, it's the balance skills, right? It's all about balance. It's all about harmony and beauty. And I think if there is anything where the scales just might be tipped too much on one side or too much on the other side, it's just going to help bring balance or bring restoration, or perhaps just bring someone new into your life, or on the flip side of that, have them exit if they are, tipping your scale too much, or maybe your scale is tipped and someone's going to come in and go, let me help you. Here you are. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. It's just, I don't know I don't have anything that I'm expecting, which is great, right? So
It
we'll
could
see what
be a really
happens.
beautiful thing. Um it could just even be new ways of doing things within current relationships that are going to
Yeah,
help you move forward in a
yeah.
better and aligned way for you.
Okay.
And for you with the solar, just double check. 10 degrees Libra. So it's still within that 5 degrees. It is in your second house on your south node. So the south node brings in energies of things that may feel, what's the word I want to use, natural, or gut reactions that we want to do. But when we do them, they're not in our highest good. Usually they are things that are carried in from past lives where maybe
Right.
we had to do that in a previous life, but not in this life. So with it being really on your south node for you, that's going to really be themes of, is there anything that maybe you are holding on to right now that isn't in your highest and best good?
Changing
Let me
pattern,
ask, let
shifting
me ask you
patterns,
something.
right? Yes.
Yes. Have you been really wanting to make shifts forward in a new way, or level up in a new way, or welcome in? So this is,
Absolutely.
if you want to move forward on a new path or in your highest potential, you can't be pulling things behind you that are holding you back. And I think a lot of times, I know for me anyways, when I tapped into all my south node energy, they were things that I was doing, but I didn't realize they were things that were hindering me because they feel so natural. You feel like the things you're supposed to be doing. And when you move towards your north node, which is the highest potential of the chart, it may not feel as natural, or it may not feel as easy. But when you take those steps and you start doing that, my God, do you feel amazing?
Yeah.
So I feel like with this eclipse on this south node for you, it's going to be a really beautiful energetic push forward, and just any support you might need, just pulling out any last little bits of things that don't need to be there anymore.
So it's on my south node. So what I would be, it would behoove me obviously to look and feel into the south node, but also to look at my north node because that is almost like the antidote. That is the
Yes,
support to move me forward from any of the negative patterns that are sort of subconsciously driving me from that south node. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I still do checks with myself, like 10 plus years more down this journey, and I still do checks with myself if I'm not feeling, and not physically, but like mentally, emotionally, spiritually, if I'm feeling off, I will check with myself. Am I living from qualities of my south node right now? And 9 out of 10 times I am.
Mm.
And then I know now it's my choice. I
Mm-hmm.
can stay there and I can, keep going down that rabbit hole, or I can take steps forward towards my north node, which in that moment might feel a bit hard. But every single time without fail, as soon as I do it, I'm like, okay, I feel way better now. So
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
yeah.
And there's north and south nodes, to consider in human design as well. And so I do because I use human design so much. I do go and look at those especially on the design side of human design because that's what my body, it's the unconscious, and so it's what the
Mm,
body is going to gravitate toward. And yeah, I have to check myself and move, yeah, really like take a conscious step toward on both the personality and design side to the north node and let it be it's like the guiding light, right? It's like the north star in our
yes, exactly. The
yeah
highest
chart.
energy. Yep.
So tell us, so we have the solar eclipse is happening October 2nd. Lunar eclipse is next week as we're offering this right now. It's either Tuesday or Wednesday, 17th or 18th, or it's like kind of bridging over. Tell us the qualities of a partial lunar eclipse. And then, of course, maybe if we contrast it to the offering or the energies of it's an annular solar eclipse, as I understand, right? So, yeah, tell us about the partial lunar eclipse energy.
It has to do with visibility, which is why it'll be partial or full. It just has to do with our visibility of how we can see it from Earth. Um,
But the
with
energies of it, like, what is
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
so Pisces is going to be the collective energy for the lunar, and so again, this is creative energy, allowing and accepting, flowing, sensitive. This is really the energies of Pisces. And one thing that's very interesting is with both the Piscean influence and the Librian influence, which is the solar, there can be a sense of wanting to avoid.
Mm.
Pisces more so with difficult situations. Libra is more conflict, which I know can probably sound like the same, but different in this sense. Anything that will be anything that feels difficult to talk about, Pisces tends to pull back because that's not part of a Piscean energy. Pisces just wants to flow and be creative. They don't want to be in any difficult type situations. It doesn't make Pisces feel very comfortable. Aries, on the other hand, not a problem.
Sit down. You're going to hear this. One of my Aries friends used to. Yeah, one thing I noticed about her, like quick into our friendship, is that she'd be like, her thing she said all the time was, "Listen." I'm like, "Don't listen me. Don't
Yeah.
listen at me. Listen." And also because there was often something really silly and sarcastic that would follow the listen, but she was serious. Also,
Yeah.
listen, listen.
I was actually, one of my clients that I had earlier today, we were actually laughing because we were talking about Mercury placements, and my Mercury's in Aries, and in Aries in the sixth house, which is Virgo. So my communication influences are Aries and Virgo, and I cannot tell you how many times I've been told that I have an aggressive communication style, and I'm just because I don't know any different. I just
Yeah.
say things.
Uh-huh.
So there's the difference between Pisces and Piscean and Aries energy, and the Libra, because it is those balance scales, and the Libra doesn't like things to feel unharmonious. Libra doesn't like things to feel off balance. So if there's anything that might come up that feels like it could throw a balance off, Libra will tend to just be like, you know what, it's fine. I would
Hmm.
rather keep the harmony than risk the harmony.
Yeah.
So these are also going to be two major energies of these eclipses, and something to really be aware of and watch out for and pay attention to, because avoiding doesn't make things go away.
Right. I can see how both of these energies, again, and they're different ways that they approach avoiding certain things. Both of them can be, it could be codependent, because I was about to say, well, your communication, the people who have a direct communication style, that's what I would call it. I would not call it aggressive. And I'm not saying that only about you. I just mean about people in general who get that criticism. I'm actually comforted by people when someone is direct. It's so comforting, because another person who's all like floaty, flighty, fairy like me, I'm like, it's exhausting if we're both doing that. So someone move the needle forward with more directness.
Yeah,
That's comforting to me. So then again, if I look at the shadow of that, then if Pisces maybe appreciates someone else being strong because they don't feel like doing it, then you know what I mean, like we're kind of giving up our power. And Libra being avoidant and saying, just fine, like just I'll deal with how it's out of balance and not involve you guys, right?
yeah,
Both kind of potentially a codependent energy. But, that's what these eclipses do. They just kind of, the stuff has to get done and you have to face it and recognize how strong you are as you do face it.
exactly. Exactly. And so between that September 17th to October 2nd, that is when the energies are going to feel most intense.
Mm-hmm.
That is when, likely, if things are going to be shifting, will be in between that period.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us, if you are energetically sensitive, will start to feel these energies up until 2 months prior, like before, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
the eclipses happen. And I think a lot of us have been feeling perhaps unsettled, or like change is coming, or you can't put your finger on it, or exhausted,
I'm exhausted.
um, exhausted, perhaps emotional. There could, for me personally, I find that if there's something that does need to be purged, it will come. I will get sick.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be, it's not everyone. It's
Mm-hmm.
me, some people, me personally. And the next 6 months, so for you, Tricia, the that seventh house influence and that second house influence, it's not going to say for the next 6 months you're going to be, feeling
Right.
it and going through it. It's just, these are going to be the themes, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll notice you want to probably keep making progressions in these areas, or little things could come up to help you check in with yourself to see, have you made the shifts? Are you staying true to this new version that you're moving forward in? Are you falling back into old habits? And then, gearing up for the next eclipse season, and we do it all over again.
You know what I just thought of, and I didn't, and you might be experiencing this too. I got super extra busy with one-on-ones the last like probably couple of months, and I
Yeah.
was like, what's happening? And it's like to where I'm overscheduled because people like really need it, and that's probably why, is the intensity that everyone's
Yes,
starting to feel. Mm-hmm.
me too, 100%. And I think I notice this anyways, as an astrologer, and I know not everyone believes in it, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. You
It
don't
doesn't
have
matter.
to.
It's still energy that's moving us.
So I love when, because I have people in my life that think, it's nonsense, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I, honor your inner knowing, even if they don't necessarily honor mine, but that's not a
Mm-hmm.
problem. And I can see how they're being affected.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't,
Yeah.
a prior version of myself would have spoke up and said something, and it falls on deaf ears. But I just kind of, take my step back, and I notice, and it's very interesting for me to see through a professional lens how these energies affect everyone, whether you acknowledge them or not.
Yeah. Right. It's funny. My husband is, an open-minded skeptic, but not someone who he has his own spiritual practice. He meditates and all of that. But astrology or something like that is not his main thing. He said to me once, like 2 days ago, he's like, "Is there like a Mercury retrograde or something?" I like the way he says it.
happening.
Mercury retrograde.
Emerg-
It's happened twice. It was like a couple of months ago. He asked me, and when it wasn't the Mercury, when we weren't in Mercury retrograde. Yeah, it's funny just to hear that he's like, I think this, he's interested in it because he's noticing this is weird. There's anomalous stuff going on. But what's so funny about it is he was having an issue with his email, and it was like across all of the different devices. And it was like he's calling the providers and maybe the cable company and all these different things and trying to find the reason why it's off. And and he did this for like 2 days, getting tech support and everything. And then finally, he told me, he goes, "Well, I ended up changing my password, and that made it all come into alignment." And I was like, You didn't change your password?" Because that's like something he would like instruct me on if I were doing that. But
Yeah,
somehow that was hidden to him for like 2 days of frustration. And I'm like, that's kind of an eclipse symptom, I think. Something that was hidden from him. And then it just popped off again when it fixed. It just fixed like that. And so he was asking me if there was a Mercury retrograde because of some weird technical stuff happening for him. But
totally.
it's about, receiving communication. It's
Hmm.
about a link to the world, and his password is like the secret thing, the secret code that unlocks his capacity to communicate. Be curious to see what's going on in his chart with that
And it could
stuff.
also be too, depending like where the eclipse is in his chart.
Hmm.
Maybe it's near his Mercury. Maybe it is in um, the third house, which is Gemini, or the sixth house, which is Virgo, which where Mercury is in strength there. It could be, or yeah. So
Yeah, I know. It's really interesting, though. So, how can people make you gave us, I think, a pretty good instruction on looking at your chart, seeing where where Pisces is, and then I guess seeing where Libra is too when we get to the October 2nd
mhm.
solar eclipse, and then if it's within 5 degrees. Oh, what is the Libra degrees for the
The
solar
Libra,
eclipse?
it's 10 degrees Libra.
10 degrees Libra.
So you're going to go 5 degrees either way. And
Hmm.
that's the same with the 25 degrees for
Okay,
Pisces.
perfect. How else? What are in general? What are some other? Or do you want to share with us some of the amazing stories that you've heard about people using eclipse energy, either yourself or others? You told us some of your amazing ones, like relationships ending and beginning. What is some guidance we can take away from this?
I have another one I can share actually,
Yeah, please.
which was huge for me. And this didn't have to do necessarily with my chart. It's more from an astrocartography standpoint, but
Mm-hmm.
it would have been maybe like 2021, I think. And I was in New Zealand. And for those of you that don't know, I live most of my time in New Zealand. I go back and forth, but I was there for 3 years without coming home, and that was due to the borders being closed because
Oh
of
yeah,
the
COVID. Yeah.
pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was at a phase where I didn't know what I was doing, and my visa was coming up for um, expiration, and I was trying to see if I could renew it. I had no idea. And I was telling my astrology teacher this. I was really stressed out about it. And I was out for drinks with a friend. And it was the day before the eclipse, or it was the eclipse. And so I'm chatting with her, and our server comes over, and she's Canadian. So I'm chatting with her, and she's like, "Oh, didn't you see the news?" And I'm like, "No," because I don't really ever watch the news.
Yeah.
And if I'm just being honest.
Hmm.
And I'm like, "No, I didn't see the news." And she's like, "Oh, all of this." She, "What visa are you on?" And I told her, and she's like, "Oh, they all just got extended 6 months." And I'm like, "What?" But yeah, the New Zealand government extended them because, again, because of COVID and borders weren't open, and they wanted to keep people in working, right? And I was like, "Are you sure?" So I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh my God, my visa just got extended." And I go in the next day because I had an astrology class, and I tell her, and she's like, "Well, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to get your hopes up, but the solar eclipse went through Canada, and I was just going to be very interested to see how that impacted you as
Wow,
a Canadian." And I was just like floored. I was
that's
like,
wild.
"Okay, I
So the
know."
astrocartological impact, even though you aren't there, but you're native there, and you have a lot of imprint in there and from there. So it's still like that's fascinating. So I was born in Texas. And so I lived there until I was about age 13. And a lot of my family is actually all of my side of the family, and as opposed to my husband's side, everybody lives there. I probably still have a lot of astrocartography kinds of qualities that I sense in those areas, right? Maybe
I just want to highlight that I love Texas.
you do.
And I honestly, like, I am such a little country girl from someone who grew up in like Southern Ontario. That's really not country, but like, I have my cowboy boots and I love country music
Yeah, I
and
do too. I mean,
love it.
yeah, it's like baked into me. So, yeah, I
I've,
clock.
I've pulled it into me because I
Yeah.
love it. So,
Yeah, I have. There's only one club here that, well, no, there's probably more. In Southern California, there was one very famous one that has country music and country dance nights, but they had like a big shooting a few years ago, and so I kind of like took it off my radar. I'm sure it was anomalous, and unfortunately for the business, it's still stuck with me. But I clog. Do you know what clogging is?
no.
It's like a country style of
Oh, it's
tap.
like two stepping?
No, it's tap.
No.
It's a
Okay.
tap. It's but the tap shoe is totally different and the movements are totally
I tap
different.
dance. I
Really?
do. Yeah. 17 years I did tap dancing. It's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Well, I clogged when I was a kid, and I have clogging shoes. The tap on a clogging shoe is it has a double tap, so it's a loose double tap that makes a lot more noise than a
And is
regular
it
tap.
more like I don't want to not rough. I don't want to
Yeah.
say rough, but like
Sure.
prominent
Yes, it's like more stompy.
movements.
It's
Yes, okay, I
stompy.
know what you're talking
Your
about.
knees
That's
bent.
really
You
cool.
pick your knees up like this.
Yeah,
Silly, but yeah. Anyway, so I was saying, like,
Texas.
do I probably have that some astrocartography influence in my energy because of having so much being born in those area in that other area, and even though I don't live there, do you think?
So the way that it works is that you have these planetary lines that are attached to the four meridian lines of your chart, which have to do with the ascendant, which is the self, the descendant, which is the other, the midhaven, which is work, the outer world, and the IC, which is the inner world and the home.
Mm.
And these lines are attached to each one of the planets and points, and they all flow through your chart.
Mm-hmm.
So where these lines are in your chart are going to show you certain parts of the world that you will be, I don't want to say successful, but have more opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
more energy, feel different based on these where these lines are
Yeah.
moving in your chart essentially.
I think as I've looked, my Mercury line flows through where I live now, here in Los Angeles.
So communication and
Hello.
yeah, podcast. Hi.
Right. That's funny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think my husband's Venus is, I think his Venus runs through here, Los Angeles, where he met me. So
This is really cool.
we should move to his Mercury or maybe his Midhaven line sometime, so he
So
can
we're
just kind of, maybe I can retire.
yeah.
I'm never going to retire until I,
Could
this
you
is because I love it.
imagine you're just secretly nudging him like, what about, and it's like somewhere so random, like what about Latvia?
Yeah,
You thought
exactly.
about like not that Latvia is random, I shouldn't say that, but it's not necessarily a vacation destination for everyone.
It's not necessarily the film industry either, which is what he's in. So
Yeah. Perfect. You're like Iceland. Have you thought about it?
I'm huge in Iceland. I'm not
I
huge
love
in Iceland.
Iceland.
But for some reason, I rank high on the podcast charts in Iceland.
You look Icelandic. Maybe
I
that's why.
do. And also, Iceland very much honors nature spirits and fairies. And I
Mhm.
do, have a lot of that energy and talk about it. So maybe that's why. But anyway, well, this has been really great, Jennifer. Is there any last things that we need to contemplate or know about as we head into the, embracing the change opportunities that come with this eclipse season? Anything else you'd like to tell us?
I think that I would just say knowledge is power. I think be careful with the information that you're absorbing because I do feel like there's a lot of fear mongering around this time, and it doesn't have to be anything to fear.
Mm.
So, knowledge is power, understanding where these eclipses are interacting and working with your chart is going to be huge. And something else that I just like to recommend, especially as we are talking, well, we touched upon already that not everyone recognizes astrology, but the energies still really affect them. Show yourself and others grace during this time.
Yeah. Good
Um,
point.
it may be that person who's honking the car behind you and you're like, what's the rush? Or just, bump into someone in the supermarket and they're horrible to you. They don't know you. It has nothing to do with you. And I'm not saying to let anyone mistreat you by any way, shape, or form, but not everything deserves your energy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you notice that someone's acting out of character, or even like you, if you're feeling out of character, you show yourself that grace too.
Yeah.
And it's really a time, especially for me being someone, I'm a Taurus. I have a lot of Taurian energy, and I need things now. I need things to figure. I need tangible things, and I need them now. Eclipse season is not a time to force things to happen or try to make anything solidify. Don't be asleep at the wheel. Position yourself the way you want to for your manifestations and how you want to move forward. But just give yourself, like, take a breath and let yourself relax. And the energy, the flow of change is upon us, and the chips are going to fall once the eclipse energy dust settles. So that's probably
Awesome.
the last thing I'd say.
I love that so much. Maybe we can be extra kind to ourselves and others. And
Yeah.
yeah, but you good point. Like other people don't, let's say, believe in or aren't aware of astrology. And so if knowledge is power, they don't have that knowledge and they don't even, so then we can, help them a little bit just with our compassion and the grace. So that's great. Thank you for that
You're
message.
welcome. And of course, too, outside of the applied astrology, if anyone did need or want support with the eclipse because you may not understand how to navigate your chart on your own, that's okay. I can also do readings for that as well.
Good.
You can send
Oh,
me a
great,
message.
great. Great. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. And also reminding everyone that Jennifer is a hypnotherapist. So she can really help us with falling into that alignment in really magnificent ways. So, Jennifer Wilson on the podcast again, oceanandoracle.com. So, everyone, be sure to, stay tuned for the next time that we're coming out. Maybe Jennifer will come on with another significant astrological transit time. And so that's what we have for you in this podcast today. Thank you so much for being here. Be sure to check the show notes for all of Jennifer's links. And I'll just say also that a little bit of a teaser, I'm announcing animal communication program and communication and healing. It's going to be I'm going to be offering it live. If you've taken it on demand recently, you get invited to the live as well. So just the best thing to do is to be a part, be on my mailing list. Also, I have the still my Astral Mastery course is still open for registration at this time, which is the Ultimate Intuitive Expansion Program. Really incredible things are going on there. People coming out of body. One who's here right now, Tracy, was telling us about how he astral projected and he went to the moon and he saw the dark side of the moon. Woohoo! So cool. So we have amazing stuff
Wow.
happening in the program. So
Wow.
those are just the last few things I would encourage you to please just check the show notes because Jennifer and I both have things we would love to share with you, to work with you on. And with that, thank you for shining your light on our beautiful world. And thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.